Lie, 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 lie. La, lie, 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 lie. Lie, lie, lie. Ya, la, lie, lie, lie. Lie, la, la, lie. Lie, 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 lie. La, lie, la, lie, lie. La, la, lie, la, lie, lie. Yai la 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 la. La 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Shabbat Shalom. Boker Tov. Mary Oliver. My work is loving the world. Here the sunflowers, there the hummingbirds, equal seekers of sweetness. Here the quickening yeast, there the blue plums, here the clam deep in the speckled sand. Are my boots old? Is my coat torn? Am I no longer young and still not half perfect? Let me keep my mind on what matters, which is my work, which is mostly standing still and learning to be astonished. The phoebe, the delphinium, the sheep in the pasture, which is mostly rejoicing since all ingredients are here, which is gratitude. To be given a mind and a heart and these body clothes, a mouth with which to give shouts of joy to the moth and the wren, to the sleepy, dug-up clam, telling them all over and over how it is that we live forever. 186, full of gratitude. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam moda ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam modim anu lefanecha melech chai v'kayam modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. 188 at the bottom. Esa einai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Esa einai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. Ya lai la lai lai, ya lai la lai lai, ya la 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 lai, ya lai la lai lai, ya lai la lai lai, ya la 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 lai. 192. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. V'ani berov chastecha v'ovetecha. Adonai ahavti me'om beitecha u'mekom mishkan kivodecha. V'ani tfilati lecha Adonai et ratzon Elohim berov chastecha aneni be'emet yeshecha. 194. Holding yourself connected to the earth and open to the sky, your physicality, the connection between heaven and earth, full of gratitude, we scan our own being. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar et ha'adam bechokma. Uvaravo nikavim nikavim, chalulim chalulim. Galui v'yadua lifnei chisei chivodecha, she'im yipatech echad mehem o yisatem echad mehem, I efshar litkayem v'la'amod lefanecha. Baruch atah Adonai, rofecho basar, umafli la'asot. 196. Breathe in, a gift from the source. Breathe out. Hineni, here I am. Who do I choose to be? Elohai nishama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai nishama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai, asher biyado nefesh kol chai, v'ruach kol basar ish. Amen. 198. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lasech vivina, lavchin ben yom uven laila, for awakening. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim, for vision. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim, for the ability to stretch. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufihim, for rising to the new day. 200. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Roka haaretz al hamayim, for firm earth to stand upon. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechin mitzadei gaver, for the gift of motion. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumihim, for clothing the body. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanoten la ya'ef koach, for renewed enthusiasm for life. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavir shena me'enai, utnuma me'af apai, for reawakening. 202. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sha'asani b'tselem Elohim, for being in the image of the divine. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sha'asani bat chorin, for being a free person. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sha'asani Yisrael, for being a Jew. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael bigvuraha, for purpose. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Yisrael b'tifaraha, for harmony. 204. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah, for the privilege and responsibility of engaging in Torah. Amen. 206. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all, because it leads to them all. Amen. 213. Hareini mizamen et pihi lodot, ulehalel uleshabeach et bori. 215. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha Od Yehalelucha, Od Yehalelucha. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha Od Yehalelucha, Od Yehalelucha. 218. Hallelujah el bikocho, hallelujah berkia uzo, hallelujah bigvurotav, hallelujah kerov gudlo, hallelujah pateka shofar, hallelujah benevel vechinor, hallelujah, 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 Hallelujah. Hallelujah. B'tofu machol. Hallelujah. B'minim v'ugav. Hallelujah. B'tziltzalei shama. Hallelujah. B'tziltzalei tru'ah. Kol anshama tehallelya. Hallelujah. Ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. 224. Yitkadav Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah B'alma divrach hirute V'yamlich malchute B'chayechon Uv'yomechon Uv'chayedecho Beit Yisrael Bagala, Bagala, Uvizman Kariv, Ve'immeru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach, Le'olam ul'almei olmaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shmei Dekudasha Berichu, Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'immeru Amen. 226. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la la. Baruch et Adonai Hamevorach. Adonai Hamevorach, Hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Please be seated. 228. A sense of gratitude as nature unfolds, Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uvarei choshech, Oseh shalom uvarei et hakol, Hameir la'aretz v'ledarim aleha berachamim, Uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, Kulam b'chochma asita, Mal'ah haaretz kinyanecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, ve'al me'orei or she'asita yifa'arucha selah. Or chadash al Tzion ta'ir, or chadash al Tzion ta'ir, or chadash al Tzion ta'ir, or chadash al Tzion ta'ir. V'nizke chulanu mehera leoro. V'nizke chulanu mehera leoro. Baruch ata Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot. 230. How deeply you have loved us, Adonai, our source, gracing us with surpassing compassion on account of our forebears whose trust led you to teach them the laws of life. Be gracious to us, teaching us as well. O merciful one, have mercy on us by making us able to understand and discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah. V'ha'ernenu b'toratecha, v'dahabek liveinu b'mitzvotecha, v'yached levahavenu, le'ahava u'l'ira et shemecha, v'lo nevosh, v'lo nikalem, v'lo nikashel, le'olam va'ed, ki v'shem kodecha, hagadol v'hanora b'hatachnu, nagila v'nismecha, nagila v'nismecha b'yeshuatecha, v'havi'enu l'shalom me'arba knafot ha'aretz, v'tolichenu komo miyut le'artzenu, ki el po'el yeshuot ata, uvanu v'charta, v'keravtanu l'shimcha gadol selah, be'emet, להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. Amen. 232. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kvod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. 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 234. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בהם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. 236. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל, ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף בתיל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית, וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם, ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם. Life without integrity is like loosely hanging threads, easily fraying from the main cloth. While in acts of piety, we learn to understand that every instant is a thread, raveling out of eternity to form a delicate tassel. We must not cast off the threads, but we weave them into the design of an eternal fabric. Each day points to eternity. The fate of all time depends upon a single moment. Adonai Elohechem Emet. I'm going to bring the beginning of a study right here with the words Emet. Bereshit bara Elohim. Listen to the last letter of each of these words. Bereshit, Tav, bara, Aleph, Elohim, Mem. These three letters are the word Emet, Aleph, Mem, Tav. This sense that we hold as a leap of faith, that this teaching is for us the beginning, the middle, and the end. It is our truth. It is the truth that guides decent living for us, connected living, loving living, living with integrity. It is the truth that if we walk this way, then we are unfolding according to a plan of the divine. Bereshit bara Elohim. Knowing that presence 240 as Miriam, Moses, and the children of Israel. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot, oh sefele, Nora tehilot, oh sefele. Shira chadasha, shibchu geulim, l'shimcha al sfat hayam. Yachad kulam, hodu v'himlichu, ve'ameru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Tzor Yisrael, kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, uvtechenu mecha Yehuda v'Yisrael. Go aleinu Adonai tzivaot shemo kedosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Kavanah, intention, according to Maimonides, is not when we indulge in our inner deepest thoughts, but when we clear our mind of all private and selfish thoughts so that we can open ourselves to a sense of the divine. (242) Lai 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 Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Tfilat Amidah 244. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei Hakol, ve'Zocher Chastei Avot ve'Imahot, Umevi gula livnei vneihem leman shemo be'ahava melech ozer umoshia umagen Baruch atah Adonai magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah atah gibor le'olam Adonai mechayei hakol atah rav lehoshia Mashiv haruach umorit hagai Hashem mechalkel chayim bechesed mechayei hakol berachamim rabim sohomech noflim verofech olim umatir asurim kahayem emunato li shenei afar michamocha bal givurot umido melach melech memit umechayei umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman atah lachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai Mechayei hakol. 248. Nikadesh et shimcha ba'olam. Keshem shemakdishim oto bishmei marom. Kakatuv al yad neviecha. V'kara ze el ze ve'amar. Kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. Adonai tzivaot meloch ol haaretz kevodo. Adir, adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu ma'adir, Shimcha bechol haaretz, Baruch kevod Adonai, Mimkomo. Echadu Eloheinu, Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu, Hu Moshi'enu, V'hu Yashmi'enu, Berachamav le'enei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohayich Tzion, Ledor vador. Hallelujah. Ledor vador. Nagid god lecha. ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נהגתיש ושפחך ושפחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד לעולם ועד Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh Ha'el HaKadosh Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh HaKadosh 250 Yismechu v'malachutecha Shomrei, 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 Shahabat v'korei Oneg Shahabat Yismechu v'malachutecha Shomrei, 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 Shahabat v'korei Oneg Shahabat Mekadeshei, Mekadeshei Shevi Shahabat Kulam Yispe'u V'yitangu Mitu V'chashabat V'hashvi'i Ratzita bo V'kihidasho Shahabat Chemdad Yahamim Oto karata hashabat Zecher Lema'aseh v'reshit shahabat Zecher Lema'aseh v'reshit shahabat Yismechu v'malachutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shahabat v'korei Oneg Shahabat Yai lai lai la 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 lai 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 la la lai Ya lai 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 Giving voice to the unwritten prayer, finding your own space, your own rhythm, your own place in the Amidah. We continue through page 260. Work your way back to your seats as you have completed your prayer. I'm one with the world. I have hope. Ose shalom bimromav, u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Ose shalom bimromav, ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Page 362. Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai, ve'en kema'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor vador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim, heitiva vertzoncha et Zion. Tivne chomot Yerushalayim, kivecha levad batachnu, melech el ram v'nisa, adon olamim. 364. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, udvar Adonai mi Yerushalayim. 366. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Mo Yisrael Bihikdu Shato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo. Gadlu l'Adonai iti uneromema shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula vehagevura vehatiferet vehanetzach vehachol. Ki chol bashamayim uvaretz, ki chol bashamayim uvaretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'hamid na'aseh lechol lerosh. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed. Al shlosha devarim, shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Does everyone have a chumash? Yes, awesome. Pull out your chumash. So this is a very easy day for us to find our place. It is amazing as we have the privilege of being together to open with Genesis 1:1, and I couldn't contain myself from wanting to really be at 1:1. Notice, I am just getting organized with my sense of us being back together. For the first Aliyah, I have the privilege of calling Kara Levine Brenner. Na la'amod. You're going to have to help me out here. Just tell me your name.
Chaya Atara.
Chaya Atara mi Beit. Yaakov v'Rivka le'aliyah harishona. You're perfect.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborah.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amin v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. And I just want to make it clear that Ellen did not report to me that she wouldn't be here today. So I'm very disappointed. I expect always to know what's going on. Amen. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. V'haaretz hayta tohu vavohu v'choshech al pnei tehom v'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim. Vayomer Elohim yehi or vayehi or vayar Elohim et haor ki tov vayavdel Elohim bein haor uvein hachoshech vayikra Elohim laor yom ulechoshech kara laila vayehi erev vayehi voker Yom Echad.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Sorry. Asher v'harbanu.
Asher natan lanu.
Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai.
Noten HaTorah. Amen. And Kara, we're going to ask you to walk around the front and be in the second box. Thank you so much. So that's our protocol. That's how we're trying to do it. And Kara and I were just talking about how we're so happy to be together, and we all need to try and hold the protocols for COVID. So that's what we're doing in order to just keep everybody safe. And then thank you so much. My reader for the second Aliyah is Dave Rosenthal, and for this Aliyah, I ask Carmel Gold to come forward into the box. Na la'amod. This morning I have all of these people who are not in my regular Shabbat morning. Carmel, Bat, Avraham v'Sarah, Yosef,
Mary.
Miriam, La'aliyah Shenit.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher barkar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Elohim Yehi Rakia Vatov Hamayim Vehi
Mavdil
Vehi Mavdil
Bein Mayim
Lamayim Vayas Elohim et
Rakia
Vayavdel
Vayavdil
Bein Hamayim Asher
Mitachat
Lerakia
Uvein
Bein Hamayim Asher Ma'al Lerakia Vihi Kain Vaya Reich Elohim Lerakia Shemayim Vayehi Erev Vayehi Voker Yom Sheni.
Shakach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet. V'chayei olam natan
B'tokeinu.
Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. And you stay in the Yasher Kochech, Yasher Koach, and you come to the other box. Fantastic. For my third Aliyah, I will be inviting Debbie Beck. But before we play and bring Debbie into the sanctuary, I'm going to do a Misha Berach. Na la'amo Devora mi beit Avraham v'Sarah. For all of those who are struggling with healing, both of body and of soul, I will be pausing in this Misha Berach and asking you to shower the names forward. I am holding the names that I read last evening, the names that have been held by our congregation, by members of the congregation for their own loved ones and friends. For you who are virtual with us and for you who are here, when I pause, please just send those names forward. Misha Berach Avotenu ve'emotenu Avraham Yitzchak ve'Yakov Sarah Rivka Rachel ve'Leah Hu yivarech et hacholim.
Jerry Miller, Jack Levy.
Susan Bosch, Lee Kalish, Elaine Trott. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yimalei rachamim aleiham lach limamu l'rafotam lach zikam v'yishlach lahem meira refuah shlema min hashamayim refuat hanefesh refuat haguf hashtei bagalav yizman kariv v'nomar Amen. Debbie, who has joined us now in the sanctuary for the honor of the third Aliyah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed.
Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim V'natan Lanu Et Torato Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Vayomer Elohim Yikavu Hamayim Mitachat Hashamayim El Mekom Echad V'Teira'eh Hayabasha Vayichem Vayikra Elohim Layabasha Eretz Umikvei Hamayim Kara Yamim Vayar Elohim Kitov Vayomer Elohim Tadshei Haaretz Deshe Esev Nitzriya Zera Eitz Peri Hose Peri Lamino Asher Zar Ovo Al Haaretz Vayehichem Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet V'chayei Olam Nata B'kochenu Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Yasher kochech. P, I'm going to invite you for the honor of Galila. And for the honor of Hagba, I invite at this moment Elaine Trott. Nalamod. I'll walk you through it. Hagba v'Galila. Come on forward. Hagba and Galila. If you want to send Vizot HaTorah Asher Samoshe Lifnei V'nei Yisrael Al Pi Adonai B'yad Moshe. Come join me. Put your hands up on the top on the wood. Torah, 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 Torah. Don't let go now. Torah Tziva Lanu. Now let go. Now get the belts. Torah, Torah, Torah. Belts first. Torah, Torah, Torah. Tziva Lanu Moshe. Around the back. Torah, 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 Torah. Nice and tight, 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 tight. Valanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva Lanu Moshe. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah utvar Adonai Yad first. Shalayim ki mitzion tetzei Torah utvar Adonai Mirushalayim. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah utvar Adonai Mirushalayim. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah Yesher Koach utvar Adonai Mirushalayim. So I do apologize when Ellen's here. She will give people advance notice during services. She'll let you guys know. And I put you guys on the spot just as a way of getting us in there. I am just so thrilled that you're all here and thrilled to be sharing this with you this morning. It is humbling to notice that we're at the beginning, and because we're really launching the year, I wanted to honor it by reading a passage of Haftorah so that everyone's going to be equally excited and coming each and every Saturday. The Haftorah for Bereshit can be found on page 51 of the blue Plout Chumash. It is Isaiah 42:5. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nbi'im tovim v'ratzah v'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher batorah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. Amen. Ko amar ha'el Adonai borei hashamayim v'notehem roka haaretz v'tze'etzaeha noten neshama la'am aleha v'ruach laholchim ba. Ani Adonai kiraticha v'tzedek v'achzek biyadecha ve'etzorcha ve'etencha levridam leor goyim livkoach einayim ivrot lehotzi mimazger asir mibeit kele yoshvei choshech. Ani Adonai hu shmi uchvodi le'acher lo eten utihilati lapsilim harishonot hinevahu v'chadashot ani magid b'terem titmachna ashmiya etchem. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol haolamim tzadik bechol hadorot ha'el hane'eman ha'omer ve'oseh ha'medaber u'mkayem shekol devarahav emet v'tzedek al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al hanvi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu liktusha v'limenucha lechavod ultifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvarchim otach yitbarach shimcha befi kol chai tamid le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. So for those of you who listened last evening, I know my story wasn't a big hit for the kids, but I thought it was a great story. The bet. The bet. That's how our Torah begins, with a bet. And it's counterintuitive to what we would expect. You would expect it to be the Aleph, because you want order, right? Order. Give me order. Aleph, bet, Gimel. Let it start with Aleph. But no, it's not the Aleph that begins. It is the bet. And I want to speak about the bet, okay? I want to speak about the bet, the way that it looks. It's got a top, a back, and a bottom. Now, I'm going to turn for a minute, and I understand I'm wearing a mask. Now I'm going to turn my back just for a minute, Barry, I promise. The top, the back, and the bottom. This is the beginning of the Torah. And notice what that bet does. It actually is like a launching pad for the balls that come out of the tennis court. Or, you know, when my son used to want the soccer ball to shoot out at him so he could kick it. It has a top, a back, and a bottom. Now, this is very interesting because we are actually told in the Midrash that the top is like the east, and the back is like the south, and the bottom is like the west. So what you have with the bet is sort of the way of the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, the natural order of things. More than that, the bet protects you on the top, protects you on the bottom. It's like a roof and a floor. And this is a really interesting piece. It holds you from what existed before, right? The past, if you will. Here's the story. The past is for us past. The past is for us, if you look at the story in the Torah, unknown. It was tohu vavohu. It couldn't be understood. And the way that we look is only forward. We're held from what existed before. We're protected at the top, we're protected at the bottom, but we are launched forward. This is a teaching about how to be in the world. Because what is in the past doesn't actually serve you. It only serves you if you can learn from it. But it doesn't serve you to dwell on it. It doesn't serve you to live your life on it. Yes, learn from it. But all of this is about how do you go forward with two pieces now I'm going to add to you, and then I'll add another. With the natural course of things, sunrise, sunset. There's not even a sun yet, right? But protected on the top, protected on the back, protected from what was unknown before, projecting you forward. And then comes this beautiful thing. Look at the first word, Bereshit. Bereshit. If you take the ba, which means in, it actually means in a beginning. Not in the beginning, in a beginning. Yeah, it's very interesting. Or, I love our translation here, when the source was about to create. Bereshit. If you take the ba and you separate it, and you take the yud tav at the end and you separate it, you have the core of the word, which is rosh. Here, the word rosh, according to Kabbalah, according to Jewish mysticism, is the top of the sfirot, right? The top of the sfirot, which is what? The divine presence. So, the rosh, the head, the rosh, the most elyon, the highest of the sfirot, is the divine And what do you have on the two sides of the divine? A bet and a yud tav. The divine in the bet, right? The divine is in the center, and you have a bet and a yud tav, and bet yud tav makes the word bayit, house. And this is really beautiful because it is the creation of a dwelling of the universe, a creation of the dwelling of the sacred, a creation of the dwelling of not the sacred because the sacred existed, but the sacred in relationship to us, the house. You know, I've been using that word. It sort of came to me this year when we had COVID. You know, I have people in the house now, you guys, right? And then I called Debbie virtually into our house to read Torah. There's this sense that the act of creation is creating a protected dwelling place for the engagement with the divine. Let me jump for a minute to Isaiah, where we were reading. What is that passage actually telling us? It's telling us that to be in relationship with the divine, we have to understand our relationship with the very earth that we dwell on and the people who will walk here, and then what righteousness is, and then a covenant. Imagine that. First, having a sense of connection, stewardship, responsibility, balance with the earth and with others that dwell in the earth. And then with righteousness, and then the covenant unfolds. So let's go back for a minute and let's just talk about the actual creation itself. Okay, let's go through the days together. You guys ready? First day, what's created first day? Right? First Marty said light, which is exactly right. Light, which light allows us and enables us to understand day and night. Light and the absence of light, right? Light is created and now things start to take form. Light, day and night. Second day, beautiful water, water and water above and water below. Absolutely, Kara. The water above and the water below. So now we started with lights, day and night. Second, water above and water below. Havdil, separating. It's taking the tohu vavohu, separating it out to make form. For those of us who need order in our life, right? We take something and we just try to move it around so it has a form that we can understand. Light, day and night. Water, the water of the heavens and the water of the earth. Third day, not yet, dry land. First, dry land, yabasha, always dry land. And then from the dry land comes the earth and herbs, things that grow on the earth. The fourth day, not living things yet. Me'orot, luminaries. Absolutely, Marty, absolutely. Absolutely, thank you. Then the moon and the sun, right? The luminary, the large luminary and the small luminary. And then the fifth day, living creatures. We had, of course, on the third day, as Marty said, vegetation. And on the fifth day, living creatures, fowl, sea giants, living beings that creep on the earth. And on the sixth day, mammals, animal life, and Adam, humankind. So As we think about the 6 days, any thoughts that you, or questions or comments that you would like to throw out in terms of taking the time to order them?
It follows our best understanding of the biological sequence.
Okay, beautiful. It follows our best scientific understandings that we have. Thank you, Marty. So Kara's noticing there's a creation, and tell me if I'm using a word that that works. A naming, right? Does that work for you? Categorizing, a naming. So I think that's so beautiful because when we think about, I really love this point. This baby, this child is born to me, right? Right? It's great. Child's born. And then I name it, and that's how it enters into the sacred covenant. The child's already born, right? It's always such a funny thing. It doesn't make the child Jewish, but there is this desire to categorize, is the word Kara used. I'm going to call it naming. As we name something, as we identify it, as we put it into a category, then it becomes part of a relationship. Once we form a distinct category, distinction, wow, and that's just really putting me really, and I just want to say, if we went all the way back to biblical times, we know, we sense, we are intuit that homosexuality was also true as heterosexuality was true. But maybe it wasn't named in the way that we learned to name it in the 60s and the 70s. If we go back to the biblical times, there is a real understanding that there is a presence of LGBTQ in the most authentic beginnings. But we hadn't named it. And as we name things, we make room in our life to be able to live spaciously, live respectfully, live with dignity, live with integrity. That the naming, and this is something that we all struggle with, how to name it. Someone said to me last night, we were talking about pronouns, and they shared with me last night, I still struggle with that, they said. And I said, it's okay. You can struggle, but struggle we will. Because as we name, with generosity and with love and with a desire to understand and leave spacious sacredness, so things take form. So I think that was a point I just had not even been attuned to, but I love that point. We could go many places with that. Yeah. Yeah, so that's, I also want to just be clear that, so what it says is, it doesn't say anything about lesbian. What it says is a man should not lie with another man the way that a man lies with a woman. And I only want to say that because I always found that so liberating. Because it doesn't make sense that a man would lie with another man the way that a man lies with a woman. It would be different. So, but my point about it was, we know that it existed. We know that it existed because if it didn't exist, then there wouldn't have been the hityachasut, the connection, the relationship to it. So that's a very powerful piece. Yes, I agree. Yes, I agree. Should I do something? No. Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, I can also pass it, so thanks. I do feel we can put it right in the middle and then people can come. How about that? I do feel that there's a power to naming, to identifying, to making it clear that this kind of thing does exist. More and different, we don't have to stay with this topic, more insights, understandings, questions that we have, or observations.
Well, the whole pattern from this point on is is making the order and meaningfulness, both on order. The point is to always find the parallel between meaning and order from here on out. So we see that pattern emerging over and over and over throughout the Torah. We see, for example, the taxonomy that comes with kashrut, which is really the fundamental principle. It's not a question of health; it's a question of orderliness that's identified.
There's a human need for order.
The human need for order is being answered with the message. You as much as you need, as much as you cannot tolerate ambiguity. Here is the way. You follow it by ordering it, by organizing it. So you have shotness, you have
Got it.
our practices, for example, of obviously Pesach and the Seder, where orderliness, the particular notion of orderliness has a special meaning for us.
And let's take that one step further. The special meaning brings us to sacred living. And that's important for us to acknowledge when we're looking, that when there is the mindfulness of the order, it elevates us toward the sacred. That's beautiful. It doesn't mean we don't question, it doesn't mean we don't challenge, it doesn't mean we don't reshape, but the mindfulness of the order, if you think about it, you know, what I didn't include in the 7 days is the seventh day, Shabbat. The order that brings us, when we observe the order, it lays the path for us for sacred living. Okay, Susan, were you saying something? Did you? No. I wanted to point something out that no one's picked up on and or talked about yet, and that is that, you know, we like to think of it as this growing crescendo, right? Especially because when we get to the 6th day, instead of saying it was good, we hear it was very good. So whenever I've been taught Genesis or study Genesis, you're always aware of the crescendo. And last night when I was studying, I actually was aware of the exact inverse, which is the honor that comes for and with the simplest forms. Light, water, the sun and the moon, the rhythms of the universe, plants. I really want to honor that. Crawling things and sea creatures, and then animals, and only then people. What if we go to the understanding that's suggested by, I just want to double check this, by the Rambam, that the very good has nothing to do with human beings having been created, but with the fact that the whole order, you ate right into my point here, thank you. The whole order was completed. Everybody is good, but when it's all aligned, then it's very good, with this possibility of shifting our crazy egocentric egomania to think that we are so important. I mean, what would happen if we actually thought that drinking water was so important? What if we thought that lakes and oceans being clean and honored were important, right? What if we thought that the skies were important? What if we could put that kind of emphasis there at the very core of our Jewish souls? Instead of entering here, I said to you before, the Amidah, that kavanah, requires letting go of the self-importance, the self-concern, and going beyond oneself. It's not so easy to do, and I just wonder about that invitation in the creation story. Who's first? We're last. We're not first. And what if we could take the Rambam's suggestion that the very good was not about us, but about everything having been completed in its relational order? I thought that that was a very beautiful piece. I do need to move us to chapter 4, verse 1, just for a moment. We didn't read it because I was feeling really desirous of beginning in the beginning. I just needed us. I knew we would be in person. I hoped we would be in person, and here we are. And I just needed us to hear the beginning of the Torah to really be sent forward into the future to what's possible. But you guys know the story of Adam and Eve and the garden and the snake. We focused on that last year, Marty and Dave, right? And here we go. So now the man knew he was intimate with his wife. She became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. Cain. The word Cain, do you know what its meaning is? From kaniti, kana, to acquire. There's something going to be fundamentally problematic here for Cain, because Cain wants to acquire. In his very essence, he wants to acquire recognition. He wants to be seen, to be known, to be honored, to be respected. So we have this tension that's set up through his name, Cain, which literally means to acquire, and Vatomer kaniti ish et Adonai, and she said, I have acquired a man of the divine. And then she continued giving birth to his brother, whose name is Hevel. And Hevel comes from vain. And he was a shepherd, ro'et son. And Cain, haya oved adama. Okay, so now we have these two potentially wonderful things. A shepherd, who usually the shepherds are the leaders, and a worker of the land. And it could be so beautiful. It could be so deeply rooted in the earth and in leadership, in caretaking. And instead, they each bring their offerings, and the Eternal approved of Abel's offering, but did not approve of Cain's offering. And Cain was filled with rage. And this is a beautiful thing. Naflu panecha, he fell on his face. Now this is a really interesting phrase also. In your, why is your face fallen? So I do want to share with you that in our biblical studies, a lot of times falling on your face can be a wonderful sign of humility, of knowing the divine. But here, when he falls on his face, you almost imagine a person or who is like downtrodden. You can't see I'm making my lips go down here, my smile, like a frown, right? Turn that frown upside down and you'll have a smile, right? Oh, the big, deep. Cain he is sullen. His face has fallen. He hasn't been recognized. And of course, he's going to go ahead. He gets filled with rage and he will kill his brother. And then when the divine comes to Cain and says, "Where is your brother Abel?" he says to him, "Lo yadati hashomer achi anochi." I didn't know that I was my brother's keeper. And I wanted to focus here for a moment. At the very, very core of the second generation comes this fundamental question about sacredness. That if we are to have sacredness, we actually have to be our brother's keepers. And here, Cain, it's 3 times he's out. The first time, his offering is not accepted and he is enraged. The second time, he acts on his rage. And the third time, he basically positions himself, am I my brother's keeper? I'm not responsible for my brother, for the other, for someone else. So his whole being is focused on why didn't I move forward? How do I move forward? And verse 7 is so beautiful. Would you not do well to lift it? For if you do not do well, I don't love this. I'm going to translate. Halo im tetiv she'at im lo hetetiv befeta chatat rovet alecha chukatov ata timshal bo. The Divine One says, you are responsible for your mistakes. You would do better to correct your mistakes. We just launched ourselves from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And I wanted to focus on this because, for 2 reasons. The second being, how am I responsible for where I've gone wrong? That my responsibility to the other, to my brother, is how I reach out to him and care for him. My responsibility to myself is to own my faults, to be responsible for changing. Turn that frown upside down. Why are your face is fallen because I didn't recognize your offering? Take a look at how you offered, says the divine. How you offer. That's how you make a difference. But instead, he is enraged. It's amazing that I can still be shocked. But I was shocked this week. Watching grown men and women take to board meetings and town meetings and the streets enraged because someone had asked their children to wear masks in school. People screaming to such, if you've seen any of the images, screaming, their faces enlarged, enraged. And I actually thought about Cain. Enraged, screaming at the top of their lungs at other people, threatening them. Holy murder. Because a school board had mandated masks to keep everyone safe. And I am shaken that this rage can even be seen in the very first portion of Torah. Cain is so enraged that he ends up killing his brother. And so I brought my hope and my focus to verse 7 as my answer for today. Would you not do well to lift your face? Because if you do not do well, if you do not look at your own demons and leave them at the door, you are the one it craves, and they will govern you. So I want to open this up. I think that we have a cautionary tale. I think that we have a human tale. I think we have to recognize how easy it is for us to be enraged. It goes back to this second generation of humankind. Martin.
Well, there's a whole lot to unpack here. First, we don't know, there is no history up to that point. So we don't know what Cain or Abel experienced, to whatever degree they had experienced very important elements in their life. For example, is this not only the first murder, but the first death of a human? It's so. What does Cain recognize from an action on his rage? We know something. We know that no sense of morality is built into this person. The sense of morality has to be passed on, as in the question that the Eternal addresses Cain with. Couldn't you do otherwise?
I disagree that there's no morality built in. I wanna counter you and say, as a way to think, there was no morality acted upon. I think morality is built into nature, but there was no morality acted on.
Well, whatever might have been the case, the lesson doesn't specify that. You have to make that inference, and you have to imagine that Cain witnessed consequences, for example, of the action of a rage in another animal besides himself, and maybe never did. So the important thing here is, I would contend, morality is in fact the basis for it has to be constructed, it has to be taught. It has to be it has to be based on unfolded events and taught. Ethics, on the other hand, may be intuited, but morality, in this case, without any prior understanding, you're correct. Of course, there's nature up to this point, but there is no lesson in Torah itself about that.
My understanding of what you're saying is morality has to be taught and has to be practiced, that we live our morality. I'm sitting with this, and I'd be happy for anyone to weigh in. I wonder if animals have a moral core. It seems to me, I mean, I think that you as a scientist, as a social scientist, a psychologist, are going to say to me they don't, but I want to say they do. I feel like animals are fundamentally moral, and that part of what corrupted Cain was the human need to acquire for oneself instead of be in balance. That was my point of today, that the creation itself unfolds in this quite beautiful way, where there is an order, using your words, and that everybody has a place, that there's an implicit morality in the order, and that part of what has thrown this, you're saying it has to be taught. I love that. I'm questioning, or perhaps we have to learn to temper this human rage, human need to acquire, in order to allow there to be a balance and a sacredness in others and in other parts of the world. Kara, yes.
I also wonder about Cain and where that rage came from. I wonder about what it might have been like in those moments when he felt that rejection of God's love. He gathered together I know he doesn't gather, it specifically says that Havel gathers the prime cuts or the choicest offerings for God. It doesn't specify that Cain does that. But in those moments, like what would it feel like to not have the divine approve of you? Maybe he grew up hearing stories about how his mom made one mistake and God decided that all women should suffer for all times. What was God? What was the divine to him? And what would it be like to feel lacking of that?
So I think you're missing over one thing. When God didn't accept the offering, does that equate that there's not love there? This is like saying, if I do something for one of my children, doesn't mean I don't love my other child?
No, absolutely not. But I wonder how Cain conceptualized love. I wonder if there was something missing in Cain's understanding.
Right.
He says to God, I'm not in charge of my brother. If I'm not in charge of my brother, that means I can just kill him. What did
Absolutely.
Cain not know?
And maybe that's the morality to take, this sense of our responsibility for and with one another. But I would say that there's a fundamental sociopathic nature of Cain, which jars me in the same way that listening to these outraged, enraged adults who are screaming at other adults because they can't comprehend that we would all keep one another safe in a public forum. And I don't believe that that's the normal course of the universe. I watch animals in nature, dolphins and elephants who, take on others young when they're orphaned. And I think that no one taught them that. That's intuitive. And, look, this is our dogs. You can't talk about our dogs because they've been so changed over the generations. But on the other hand, I watch literally the concern, the compassion, the connection that my animals feel for me. And I think I didn't teach them that compassion. That was built into them. So I guess I want to offer, I can't be right, and so I can't tell you I'm right, but I want to offer, I agree that we have to teach morality. But I also agree that we have to act on morality, and that we have competing, human beings are so complicated in our overdeveloped egotism that it complicates for me, and that's why I find his name so powerful, Cain. Yes?
I just want to speak to what Marty said about having to teach morality. I think we have, at that time, Cain, he really felt like he had a transactional sort of morality. You didn't give me what I needed, and that hurt my feelings, so now I'm going to kill my brother.
Absolutely. Transactional
you see that
morality.
with little kids all the time. If something happens, they don't like it, and their sister or brother's there, they'll take it out on them. This is just an adult version in some ways, but it's also, he's the second generation. He's such a child of humanity. Humanity is in its infancy. And I wonder if what God's purpose was in denying him that recognition, if he saw that he demanded the transaction or not. And also, I think I believe that people do have a fundamental set of morality, but I think that there's competing systems and taxonomies of morality that are circulating. So I think you made a really good point. Like, that's what all the professions, we have ethical codes, we have certain standards, because it can go in so many directions. Those people who are screaming at us truly believe that somehow the masks are going to hurt their kids, or truly believe that they don't want to be governed, or they truly believe that they're in the right. And they could cite a moral system that supports it. And I think that there is a purpose for teaching.
Right, so Susan, also Marty, let's let Susan have a moment. Marty, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, what I've been reading this week is the protests against the masks, the protests against the vaccines. They are not truly held beliefs.
They're not truly
held beliefs of the people yelling and screaming.
held beliefs.
They understand that the vaccines can help. They understand that the masks can help. But they are willing, it is crazy, but they are willing to die rather than listen to the man. It is a total rebellion. I mean, I think that when Trump was president, what was the book that was popular? The Hillbilly
Elegy.
It is the rebellion against the authority of people who do not speak to them, who are their bosses, who are their authority figures, who are at the bottom end of the income inequality, at the bottom end of education, and they're frustrated. So they're not stupid. They are willing, as crazy as it is, they are willing to take a chance rather than have the same authority figures over and over and over again tell them how they should be acting.
Okay. Okay, Marty, and then I'm going to bring this to a close. Great. Thank you, Susan. Thank you.
Okay, the question, when we say teach morality, that doesn't exclude the idea, for example, of understanding what's happening in nature. Cain is a good example. Cain tills the earth. That's all we know. He's the dirt farmer. He plants things, as far as I can hear, and he doesn't know. He doesn't see. He doesn't see a lot. As a matter of fact, Abel has a better chance because he's a hunter-gatherer. He's out in the world. He's out in nature. You learn nature by observing nature. You have to be there to see it. And you have to understand that morality is an unfolding process, in fact, and that part of the problem that Susan raises has to do with who is in charge and how to order that, how to reduce the patriarchal control to make it a more egalitarian system. Morality is learned and morality is taught, and we look for the kind of leadership that will allow us to optimize that kind of moral teaching that we can make the most of to have the most meaningful and beautiful lives that we can have.
Okay. So I'm going to close with something that may be opening. So that will be good because we can continue to discuss next week and the week after. Look at his punishment, verse 12. When you till the soil, no longer shall it give you its yield. You shall become a rootless wanderer on the earth. And in the commentary that I studied, what it comes down to is these three words: never feeling satisfied. You always, there's nothing that you have can sate you. Nothing that you have will be enough for you. I said that I was going to close with this. I actually want to just close with where we started. This is the beginning. There's a roof over us, a floor behind us, and we're protected from, the things that we can't know, but what's open is possibility. So teaching morality, living morality, being one another's keeper, and reaching for the sacred with a commitment to honoring something bigger than just one's individual self. 274. Yahallelu et Shem Adonai. Please rise. Ki nizgav shemo levado. Hodo al eretz v'shamayim. Vayaharem keheren le'amo. Tehila lechol chasidav. Livnei Yisrael am kirovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ki lekach tov natati lachem torati, al ta'azovu. Et chayim hi למחזיקים בה ותומכיה מאושר דרכיה דרכי נועם לכל נתיבותיה שלום השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדש חדש ימינו חדש ימינו כקדם. Please be seated. Tomorrow morning there is religious school at 9:30. All of my classes are on as scheduled next week. Confirmation class meets Wednesday night and Friday night. Next week, Kabbalat Shabbat begins at 7:30, Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Help feed your neighbors. Get involved with our community access, food access and equity initiative as we partner with the Blue Fridge. Please be involved also in the backpack project so that children whose families are not able to provide can have the extra support of a backpack and school supplies. Holding those members of our community who have sustained losses in the last month and year, Shloshim and Shana, and holding those members of the community whose loved one's yard site is being observed. William Cohen Ben Khan, Harold Kuhl, remembered by Richie Moskowitz, Ruth Lichtenstein, remembered by Fred and Joan Quarterer, Bertha Marblestone, Bella Monashevsky, Harold Monashevsky's mother, Paul Rosenbaum, Eva Schlesinger, Jules Schoenberger, Mariron Weil, Ken Bitz's sister, Jason Zappel, Arnie and Sharon Zappel's son, Dirk Zimmer, Melanie Hall's friend, George Zinn. As we honor and stand with those members of our community, so too do we hold the responsibility for the martyrs of our people who left no one to say Kaddish, and together with them, the people of every race and nation who live their lives as a blessing to humanity. 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah bi'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam ulalmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiram bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol b'nei Adam v'imru. Amen. I'm going to invite you to go with me to page 632. Oz, the source is my strength. V'zimrat Yah, and my song for that which is sacred. It will be that is my healing, that saves me. Ozi v'zimrat Yah v'yehi li l'yeshua v'zimrat Yah vayehi li l'Yeshua Ozi v'zimrat Yah vayehi li l'Yeshua Ozi v'zimrat Yah vayehi li l'Yeshua V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. סברי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, המוציא לחם מן הארץ. Amen. So I'm so thrilled to see everyone. A gentle reminder, all of our books should be put on the back table. And then we are asking everyone to exit the sanctuary, anyone, of course, who needs the facilities. And there we can greet one another. I will bring the challah out as long as we're outdoors. We should do our gathering out there to really be as mindful as we can of all of the protocols the leadership has put in place. Shabbat Shalom. I'm coming out to greet you outside. Shabbat Shalom.